How's it been, Grant here? Welcome back to another camera comparison video. And I know the S21 lineup of phones have just launched and mine are coming soon. I thought it'd be a good time to check back up on the Note 20 Ultra cameras because its main camera is pretty much what the S21 Ultra main camera is patterned after. And it's gone through several software updates after its launch, so I thought it'd be a good time to check back up on how their cameras are performing. And why not put it up against the iPhone 12 Pro Max, because it's pretty much in the same boat. It's gone through several software updates after its launch, so I thought it'd be a good time to compare each of these cameras and see how they're doing now. So in case you're wondering, I am using both the Note 20 Ultra and the iPhone 12 Pro Max to do all the photos and videos in this video. So if you're wondering, I am using these phones. All the photos and videos that you see here are coming from these two phones. And so go ahead and take a look at all the photos and videos like I usually do. I'll show you both good and low light so you can get a very good idea for how each of these cameras are performing. And if you're interested, stick around to the end and I'll let you know how I thought each of these cameras performed. So let's go ahead and take a look at the photos and videos.
Let's go!
friends, so here's a quick stabilization test on the iPhone 12 Pro Max and the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. I'm just walking with the phones out in front of me here, but I'll start to do a light jog so I can stress out the stabilization just a bit more so you can see what that looks like here. So there you go, just a quick stabilization test on each of these phones here in 4K. Hey everyone, so here's some front-facing video from the iPhone 12 Pro Max and Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. This is at 4K 30 frames per second on each, and obviously I'm outdoors in a bit of shade so you can see what it looks like in some nice even lighting here outdoors. But as I rotate around, you'll start to see the changing lighting conditions here, so you can see what that does to the video and image quality. And obviously the sun is right behind me, so you can see what that does to the sky as I point right up at it. And we'll point back and keep moving around so you can see what the lighting conditions look like here. And I'll start walking forward, so we'll test stabilization, and you'll start to see more of the light come in, so you can see how each of these front-facing cameras handle that. But let me know what you think about the front-facing camera quality here on the iPhone 12 Pro Max compared to the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. Hi everyone, so here's a low light test between the iPhone 12 Pro Max and the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. Starting out with the ultra wide angle lens on each. As I pan over here to the right, you can see the difference in the field of view there. Now move into the main angle lens on each, on the Note and on the iPhone there. And I'll pan up into the bright light in that sky there so you can see how it handles the flaring on that bright street lamp. So not too bad. It looks like it's flaring it out a little bit, but that's a really bright light and that's pretty normal. So we'll go ahead and pan over this way and we'll start walking to test stabilization, as well as to see how these cameras handle the light transition here from that fairly well lit scene over into a little bit darker area here. So as you walk over this way, it's going to start to get quite a bit darker. So you'll see how each of these cameras are handling that light transition there. Also pay attention to any kind of micro jitters that you might see as I walk over here. That tends to happen in low light. And at least in the viewfinder, the Note 20 Ultra is brighter, but we'll see once we offload the videos. We'll stop here and I'll pan up into the night sky. You can see what that looks like there. And I'll pan over here to the left where there's a little bit more light. So there is a low light test here at 1080p on both phones. Alright, so here we go with the same test again in low light with the iPhone 12 Pro Max and the Note 20 Ultra. This time at 4K, 30 frames per second. Again, starting out with the ultra wide angle lens on each, so you can see what that looks like on each phone. And I'll go ahead and move into the main angle lens again on iPhone and then on the Note. And again, we'll point up to the bright street light so you can see how it's handling that light in 4K. Slowly pan down, and then we'll pan over here to the left. And then we'll do a stabilization test again, this time in 4K. So we can see how it handles this walking here and what stabilization looks like in 4K. It should be looking pretty good even in 4K. They're both fully stabilized. But the image quality is usually going to be a little bit darker here in 4K than it was in 1080p. At least that's what's typical. And again, we'll see how it starts to handle this darker area here from that previous brighter area. We'll pull up here and we'll pan up into the fairly dark night sky there. And then we'll move over here to the left where there's a little bit more light so we can see that transition. And there's your low light test here in 4K. Hey everyone, so here's some front-facing footage from the iPhone 12 Pro Max and the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. This is 1080p, 30 frames per second, and as you can see, it's a pretty well-lit area, so we can start out by seeing what it looks like here with this kind of light, and you can see the bright lights behind me. You can see how the front-facing camera handles that bright light there, but we'll start walking so you can test stabilization. And so you can see what that looks like here on each of the front-facing cameras, and we'll walk over to a little bit more darker area here so we can see what that looks like in a different lighting situation. And I'll also be walking by a fountain so you can hear the noise of that in the background against the sound of my voice. You can test the audio there. As you can see, it's a little bit darker here, but I'll pan around and there's gonna be some really bright streetlights behind me. You can see how the front-facing cameras handle that, and actually they're both handling those really bright streetlights pretty well here, at least what I can see in the viewfinder. And we'll end this by backing out into this darker area so you can see what that looks like here in this kind of a light. So let me know what you think of the front-facing cameras here in 1080p. Hey friends, so here we go with the same test again in low light, this time at 4K 30 frames per second on each of the front-facing cameras. Again, we're starting out in a pretty well-lit area here, and you can see what the bright streetlights look behind me into the front-facing camera there. They both seem to be handling that pretty well. So we'll start walking and test stabilization here at 4K. And again, as I start walking, we'll be moving into a slightly darker area so you can see what the lighting does to the video quality here in 4K. And again, we're going to pass by the fountain here so you can see what that does to the audio and how that sounds against my voice here. But again, it's a little bit darker here, but we'll pan around so you can see what the really bright streetlights behind me look like in the front-facing camera at 4K. And it looks like it's flaring out a little bit more on the Note 20 Ultra, at least in the viewfinder. But you do let me know what you see, and we'll end it again here in this darker area just so you can see what it looks like in this light here in 4K. So let me know what you think of this front-facing camera footage here from each of the phones in 4K. Hey everyone, so now that you've seen all the photos and videos for yourself, let me know in the comments which one you thought did better, which one did you prefer. Now as for me, I really thought the iPhone would still be the clear winner here, but a lot of instances I actually prefer the Note, so let's kind of break it down. In daylight photos, I thought they pretty much went back and forth, except for the shots where you saw more detail in the iPhone photos, like the portrait shots in the beginning of the dog. You can see a lot more detail in the fur, because that's pretty much Apple's deep fusion kicking in, or their high dynamic range, or whatever you want to call it. It's just more detail in those photos when the lighting is just right on your subject. You can see that deep fusion kick in, and it produces that level of detail that looks a lot nicer than the more smoothed out look on the Note. But again, that doesn't happen all the time. That's just when the lighting is just right on your subject and that deep fusion processing is triggered. So when that happens, I do prefer those images from the iPhone, but for the most part, I think they really go back and forth. And for the front-facing cameras, I will say this: I think both phones did a very good job in processing the background lighting. If you notice during the day with the bright light and the blue skies, a lot of phones would blow that out and would just look like a big ball of bright mess. Both these phones did a very good job in post-processing the image. You can actually see those images processing, and once you see the results, the background and the lighting and all is very much smoothed out. You don't have a lot of bright highlights. Everything just looks well balanced as far as that background lighting is. So both of these front-facing cameras do a very good job with that, where a lot of other cameras would fail. And pretty much, I think if I had to pick one, I think I like the Note's front-facing camera more consistently. I just like the imagery that comes out of it. I also like that the front-facing portrait mode, you get a wider field of view than the iPhone. And also in low light, the night mode on the front-facing camera on the Samsung phones, especially this Note, is probably pretty much the best that I've ever seen on a smartphone. The images don't just come out brighter, but they come out a lot sharper, a lot more detailed, and a lot cleaner when you use night mode on the front-facing camera. And so all that combined, I like the Note's front-facing camera just a bit more than the iPhone. And so if we take it to low light, I thought they kind of went back and forth as well. For video processing in 1080p, the Note gets brighter, but at the cost of a lot of noise. But if you do want to see your subject in very dark situations that you're filming some video for some reason, then you're probably going to want 1080p on the Note. You'll at least be able to see your subject. But if you don't like all that noise, then I would go with the iPhone. But in 4K, they pretty much looked pretty close. The Note didn't get as bright as most phones don't do in 4K. And at that point, in 4K and low light, they pretty much looked very close. And I thought during the day, they both went back and forth as well in video. And overall, I think iPhone's grip on the best smartphone video camera is pretty much shrinking. That gap has shrunk a lot. It's a lot harder to tell now between these higher end phones like the Note, like the Pixel. If you're just comparing them back to back, you can probably see the difference. If you really want to scrutinize it, maybe you'll see the difference, but it's not as obvious as it used to be. And so I think you won't go wrong with either of these phones for video. I think the video in both good and low light looks pretty good. The Note gets brighter in that low light, so you might want that in that situation. As far as zoom is concerned, now this is where the Note clearly wins hands down. All the zoom shots were just much cleaner, more detailed on the Note than they were on the iPhone. So if you want to zoom and you need that kind of level of zoom, up to 10 times, it looks very good on the Note, where you can clearly see it doesn't look as good. You can see that digital sharpening on the iPhone much more than you can see it on the Note. And so pretty much that's what I think about how each of these phones performed and where I'm at with this. I think depends on what you want to see and what image processing you like. You're going to like the iPhone for its more warmer color tones and slightly boosted colors. Of course, Samsung does boost the colors, but it's going to be cooler color temperatures. So that's where you'll probably like the Note. That's just what I think. Let me know in the comments what you think, and let's continue our conversation on there. And as always, thanks for watching.